Chapter 56. Yang Chen smiled and nodded towards Wang Ma, then turned to speak to Xu Zihong. Young Master Xu is really diligent, you came even earlier than I, her husband. Xu Zihong seemed unfazed as he smiled amiably and said, Mr. Yang sure knows how to crack a joke. The friendship between Ruoxi and I has lasted for years. I hurried over once I heard she fell sick. Oh, Yang Chen had an expression of enlightenment, then moved forward with a strange smile and said, since young master came to visit, you must have brought something like a visiting gift, right? Xu Zihong inwardly cursed, shameless, and said, I only brought some fruits. He pointed at the fruit basket on the side table. I know Ruoxi doesn't like extravagance, so I brought something simple to represent my heartfelt wishes. Yang Chen walked to the basket and picked up a red apple. He weighed it in his hand, and spoke in disappointment, it's a real apple huh? Xu Zihong puzzlingly asked, of course it's a real apple, what do you mean by that, Mr. Yang? Hee. Yang Chen regretfully said, I thought that for a rich man like young Master Xu, the apples sent by you would be made of gold. Who knew that it would be just an ordinary apple, without any meaning to it? Xu Zihong could only feel his lungs expand. How is this man's brain grown? Golden apple. Wicked guy. Lowly person. Rogue. Mr. Yang sure knows how to make jokes, haha. Said Xu Zihong as he laughed forcibly. Lin Ruoxi who sat on the bed kept refusing to turn her head to look at the two men, yet at this moment she faintly glanced at them. Seeing the appearance of Xu Zihong forcibly laughing, her lips moved slightly. If it wasn't for taking into consideration the Xu family's might and their business cooperations, Lin Ruoxi hoped that Xu Zihong would disappear from this world. After all, if it wasn't for him pushing Lin Kun wouldn't make such a mess out of things. He caused her originally exhausted heart to become even more haggard, which was why she is on the hospital bed now. It was a pity that it was impossible for her to do something overboard to Xu Zihong. This was why in a sense, Yang Chen's actions were what Lin Ruoxi wished to see. It seemed that Yang Chen didn't plan to leave the matter at that. He waved his hand and said, I'm aware of great young Master Xu's capabilities. Something like a gold apple definitely isn't a difficult thing, it's just a question of whether young Master Xu is willing. Although something this expensive isn't much to young Master Xu, in the end it isn't good to casually give it to people you're not close to. Therefore us husband and wife will not insist for it. We are deeply grateful to young Master Xu for giving us a real apple. After speaking, Yang Chen grabbed a tissue, wiped the apple in his hand, and took a big bite out of it. In an enjoyed manner he said, not bad, very sweet, young Master Xu is even good at picking apples, looks like it wouldn't be a bad choice if someday you switched your job to a fruit farmer. Xu Zihong nearly fainted from anger. He had met shameless people before, but has never met someone this shameless. Being spoken to by this rogue, and in a few words he became a miser, a Scrooge, a selfish person, and even became AF. I came to visit a patient. Not to receive a scolding. Also, fuck that sweet apple. How can it possibly be picked by me? Of course, Xu Zihong wasn't stupid to the point where he would say, I had someone else buy the apple for me. Wouldn't that indicate that he lacked sincerity? Realizing that he would go crazy if he continued staying, Xu Zihong smiled with his skin but not his flesh as he said, I still have a meeting this afternoon, so I'll not disturb you from recovering. Ruoxi, I will come again to visit when I'm free. He immediately walked out of the room after he finished speaking. Wang Ma, who had been enduring for a long time, finally couldn't hold back, and with a poochie, she laughed out, young master, you're really good at talking. That Xu family's young master would most likely be angry for days. Yang Chen munched on the apple while saying, he won't. If he really stayed angry for a long time over a matter like this, he would have given up on Ruoxi long ago. Sigh, Wang Ma turned to look at Lin Ruoxi, who was so silent as if she wasn't in the room. I'm going out for a while, young master should chat with Miss. After the thoughtful Wang Ma left, Yang Chen annihilated the apple in his hand, and sat by Lin Ruoxi's bed. He smiled and said, my good wife, Ruoxi, this apple is pretty good, how about I peel one for you? Lin Ruoxi remained expressionless as she stared out of the window, as if she didn't hear anything. Yang Chen nodded with satisfaction, this time you didn't stop me from addressing you this way, there's improvement. Furthermore, you silently consented that you wanted to eat an apple, and even know how to act like a spoiled child, an even greater improvement. To reward you, I will personally peel an apple for you. Although she had already gained knowledge and experienced the ways of this contracted husband many times over the past few days, in the end Lin Ruoxi still felt that she underestimated this fella. I haven't even spoken half a sentence, and became a spoiled child. Can't you speak in a more decent manner? Lin Ruoxi sighed, and turned her head back, hoping to speak with Yang Chen properly. Decent. I've always been decent. What is there indecent about a husband peeling an apple for his wife? Yang Chen smiled as he took hold of a fruit knife. The shiny fruit knife in his hand consecutively spun in a beautiful 360 degrees, as if it was glued to his palm. Lin Ruoxi didn't have the mood to speak anymore, but when she saw Yang Chen reveal this skill, she couldn't help but curiously watch him carefully. Yang Chen grabbed an apple which looked good from the outside, and grasped the fruit knife in his other hand. After a brief pause, the fruit knife rapidly peeled the apple's skin. Yang Chen's hand was very fast, so fast that Lin Ruoxi, who was in close proximity, couldn't see his movements clearly. She could only see the small fruit knife turn into countless lights surrounding the apple and circling it for a short period of time. It was like peeling an apple became a piece of art, just like a clay sculpture or a wood carving, where before the final moment, you wouldn't know how the final result would turn out. In less than 30 seconds, Yang Chen stopped moving his hands, and moved the peeled apple to Lin Ruoxi. Here, your husband gives his wife a prize. Lin Ruoxi looked at the peeled apple in front of her eyes, blankly stared for a moment, and soon felt an indescribable feeling well up in her heart. Unconsciously, she became silly. At that moment, the originally rosy apple lost most of its skin, but on the peeled apple, were some thin leftover skin, forming a few beautiful red words. Wish wife good health. Lin Ruoxi noticed her eyes getting moist, and immediately controlled her emotions. She said, you only know how to do such unorthodox and senseless things, even this apple you peeled is so sappy. Hee hee. Yang Chen's thick skin blushed. Actually I also feel it's a little sappy, so it's better that you quickly eat it, my good wife. Do you want me to feed it to you? With that said he moved the apple towards Lin Ruoxi's porcelain-like smooth lips. I'll do it myself. Lin Ruoxi quickly grabbed the apple off Yang Chen's hands, but when the apple was in front of her eyes, she saw the bright red words on the apple, and hesitated. She found it somewhat difficult to open her mouth. Yang Chen said, is it difficult to bite off such a good-looking apple? It's alright, I can always peel another for my family's Ruoxi, but what should I write on it? You need not let your imaginations run wild. Lin Ruoxi immediately replied, I was just wondering whether you washed your hands. Seeing Lin Ruoxi begin to nibble on the apple he peeled, Yang Chen didn't continue teasing her, and only felt that the way this ice mountain-like woman held the apple with both hands and nibbled on it looked pretty cute. Thank you. Lin Ruoxi suddenly spoke softly. Yang Chen suspected that he heard wrongly. What? I said, thank you for everything you've done for me. Lin Ruoxi raised her head, with eyes like the clear autumn. I realized that I don't hate you as much as before. Yang Chen bitterly smiled. You need not thank me. If one day you become fond of me and promote me from a temporary husband to a permanent one, I will thank the heavens. Lin Ruoxi did not angry from those words. She instead pondered for a moment, and seriously replied, that'd be very difficult. Chapter 57. The Ice Queen was after all the Ice Queen. Although she spoke a few sentences for the first time in forever, after those words were spoken she once again returned back to shut down mode. Yang Chen judiciously left the ward. He felt hungry from not eating lunch and drove to a small restaurant to deal with it. He didn't intend to return to the company and work. Instead, he asked for directions and left for Zhonghai Yizhang to look for Li Jingjing. Note: Zhonghai Yizhang is the name of the school Li Jingjing works at. With regards to that innocent girl, Yang Chen always felt distressed on how to handle the relationship between the two of them. He couldn't bear to hurt her, and wasn't willing to see her sad. But in the end, Yang Chen knew that he still hadn't completely given up on Li Jingjing in his heart. Men simply like to find excuses to make themselves seem righteous. In Zhonghai, Yizhang is considered one of the most elite school, so it could easily be found by simply asking the locals for directions. After parking the car at the large outdoor car park in the school, Yang Chen got off the car, and realized that he had forgot to set a location for meeting up with Li Jingjing. However, he didn't panic to make a phone call, since it's always better to give a pleasant surprise. Perhaps it was because they saw Yang Chen drive a BMW into the school, the security guards at the entrance didn't obstruct him, and only glanced before amicably letting him pass. Yizhong's campus was fresh to Yang Chen. In fact, Yang Chen had never spent much time in school. The school's orderly layout, the many wooden plaques of famous sayings, as well as the occasional teachers and students walking past with books, all these were completely fresh in Yang Chen's eyes. After asking an elderly teacher along the way, Yang Chen found the building that was the teacher's office. Recalling that Li Jingjing teaches English, based on that clue, he quickly found the office which had the door with the sign, Li Jingjing, on it. Above it contained a picture of a girl wearing a smile, appearing to be brimming with youth. After knocking on the door thrice, the words, "Please enter," came from the inside. It was precisely the familiar voice of Li Jingjing. Yang Chen opened the door, and the first thing he saw was the two seated people. The first was naturally Li Jingjing with a long ponytail tied up, wearing a white short-sleeved blouse, and a pair of mid-length jean shorts that covered her thighs, looking fresh and beautiful. The appearance of the other person astonished Yang Chen. It was actually the Land Rover lady he met by chance at that night, with hair that was long, sexy and wavy, a black suit that gave off a heavy impression of accomplishment, her smooth and fair feet stepped on a pair of crystal-like textured silver high heels. Sitting on the chair, her entire figure was like a meticulously sculpted piece of art. The two ladies that had completely opposite styles yet were equally enchanting sat opposite of each other, and turned their heads to look at Yang Chen who was at the door at the same time. However, the expressions they revealed were completely different. Li Jingjing's delight was displayed through her words as she stood up and called out, "Big brother Yang." She happily moved up and pulled Yang Chen into the office, and moved a chair for him to sit. "Why have you come so suddenly yet didn't give me a call?" Yang Chen awkwardly laughed, and said, "A surprise, surprises are better." Then, he looked towards the lady that had an expression of enlightenment. "What a coincidence, we meet again." Yeah. Tang Wan sized Yang Chen up, then looked at the contented Li Jingjing, and a weird yet ambiguous smile appeared on her face. "So you are acquainted with teacher Li?" Li Jingjing curiously asked. "Miss Tang knows big brother Yang." "One fateful encounter," said Tang Wan, and she added on, "Not familiar." Li Jingjing didn't think much of it, and nodded. "I never thought big brother Yang would come so suddenly, but since everybody is acquainted then it's fine. Please tell me if there's anything Miss Tang still wishes to know, or need me to help with." Tang Wan shook her head with a smile and said, "I have already disturbed teacher Li by chatting for a long time, it's about time I return to my office. Moreover, since Mr. Yang is already here, if I still insist on staying, that would be too inconsiderate of me." As she said that, she gave Yang Chen a profound look. Yang Chen wouldn't dare look at this lady face to face. At that time, he made it clear that he wanted her to be his one-night stand. The tragedy was that he failed, and now they met when he came to look for Li Jingjing, so it couldn't be helped that her thoughts drifted in that direction. As a result, he glanced all around the room, refusing to chat more with Tang Wan. These words made Li Jingjing blush, but she felt sweetness in her heart. "Miss Tang is overthinking things, we are not in that kind of relationship." "Then let's leave it as me overthinking things." Tang Wan didn't bluntly point out anything. She gracefully stood up and picked up her white Chanel handbag. "I would have to trouble teacher Li with taking care of my daughter in the future. I shall take my leave now, thank you teacher Li. You're too courteous, goodbye Miss Tang." After seeing Tang Wan off, Yang Chen breathed a sigh of relief. Thinking of the conversation before, he bafflingly asked, "Jingjing, that Miss Tang asked you to take care of her daughter?" Li Jingjing nodded. Smiling she said, "Yes, Miss Tang's daughter is in my class, and I am the new form teacher, so she came to chat with me regarding her daughter. Actually her daughter is pretty intelligent, and obtains good results. However, she is just too naughty. Her previous form teachers were all rather worried, and made her change classes quite a number of times. Miss Tang was afraid that I would do the same, so she specially came to chat with me for a long time." Oh, Yang Chen was a little shocked inside. He never thought that Tang Wan was someone who had a daughter because she looked so young. Since she was a mother, it's no wonder he didn't succeed that night. Li Jingjing had no idea her great big brother had such thoughts, and continued saying, I pity all the parents of the world. I think that educating children always requires some patience. I plan to make some time to chat with that child. I feel that an intelligent girl like her would definitely understand her parents' labors. Yang Chen nodded in approval. That's true, a person like me that never had a mother or father can't endure the fact that someone is not contented despite having a mother's love. Big brother Yang, you're not allowed to bring up this matter, it makes people sad. Li Jingjing consoled. Your big brother Yang, have been used to it long ago. Yang Chen laughed, and stood up from the chair. He looked around at the refined office. This truly deserves to be called an elite school, even the offices are so delightful. Li Jingjing felt cheerful hearing the praises, smiled and said, this office is only used by me and another female teacher, sometimes I feel that it's quite a waste. My family's little sister Li Jingjing has braved the cold for years, it's no big deal for her to use an office like this. Yang Chen teasingly said. Li Jingjing pouted and said, Big brother Yang, I'm not little anymore, and also not some little sister, according to age, I'm even the same age as you. Yang Chen was stunned, and saw Li Jingjing's pair of large innocent eyes staring at him. In his heart, he knew what this girl was thinking about, and he felt ashamed about it, but he didn't know what to say. Right at this moment, the office telephone rang. Li Jingjing glanced at Yang Chen with bitterness once more, and proceeded to pick up the phone. After listening on the phone, she said, Thank you, I got it. Before hanging up. What's going on? Did something happen? Asked Yang Chen, who immediately shifted from earlier's topic. Li Jingjing pursed her little lips bashfully, and looked at Yang Chen with anticipation. Big brother Yang, can you accompany me to somewhere tonight? Chapter 58. Tonight. Where to? Yang Chen puzzlingly asked. Several of the school's young teachers in the English department have prepared a welcome party for me. They say it will be at Bar Streets, Heavenly Province, and I've never been to a place like that, but feel too embarrassed to reject everyone, so I'd like you to accompany me there. Towards the end of her sentence, Li Jingjing spoke with lesser and lesser strength. Fact was, after learning that Yang Chen had married, Li Jingjing was a lost soul. It was only on that day where Yang Chen helped her deal with the problem of the Chen family's father and son without hesitation, did she come to realize her big brother Yang didn't discard her. Although she felt terrible about Yang Chen's marriage, Li Jingjing was unable to resist the urge to see Yang Chen. When Yang Chen said he would come to visit her today, she couldn't sleep well for the whole night. Li Jingjing didn't know how to face Yang Chen, but once she saw him, she realized that nothing had changed. She would still happily smile in front of Yang Chen, and would still turn shy and blush over little things. But when she requested Yang Chen to accompany her to a nightclub, Li Jingjing felt afraid. She was afraid that Yang Chen would reject her because of his change in relationship status, and was even more afraid that from the very beginning Yang Chen didn't have the intention to agree to a little request like this. Too many thoughts went through her head in this moment. Yet when Li Jingjing was getting a little dejected, she heard Yang Chen straightforwardly agree, no problem. Really? Li Jingjing was overjoyed by the unexpected good news, and hugged onto Yang Chen's elbow. Big brother Yang, you'll really accompany me there. Yang Chen tapped on the girl's nose in a pampering manner, and it was a simple action like this that made it all the more pitiful. Look at how happy you look now, you're supposed to be a role model, pay attention to how you look. But somebody is just really happy. Li Jingjing stuck out her tongue, and still didn't let go of his arm. Yang Chen took a look at the clock on the wall. It was 2 p.m. in the afternoon. After pondering for a moment, he asked, Jingjing, are you busy this afternoon? I'm not, I only have morning classes today. The term just started, so it isn't a busy period. Li Jingjing honestly replied. With a profound look, Yang Chen laughed, then you should follow me somewhere now. Since they chose Heavenly Province, it wouldn't be good if you went looking this casual. After dealing with some trivial matters, Yang Chen brought Li Jingjing out of the school, and into his car. Li Jingjing was astonished when she saw the interior of the BMW. Big brother Yang, when did you buy a sports car? Although she didn't know the brand names of cars, the girl had the insight to notice that this car's price tag definitely wasn't low. Oh, now that I've changed my job and needed a car, I bought it. Yang Chen didn't continue explaining, he couldn't possibly say that he casually took this out from his wife's garage. Li Jingjing didn't continue brooding over the matter, and asked. Shopping for clothes, you are still Yang Chen's younger sister, if you get looked down upon when you go to Heavenly Province, that would be terrible. Yang Chen smiled and spoke. Is it embarrassing that I dress like this? Li Jingjing was a little depressed as she lowered her head. Yang Chen helplessly sighed, Jingjing, that isn't what I meant. It's just that you've never been to Heavenly Province, and you're not aware of it. From what I know of Bar Street, that place isn't as casual as other KTV and bars, to simply put, it's a high-class nightclub. For your colleagues to choose a place like that, it can be seen that they are all quite rich. It's no big deal if you dress casually most of the time, but if you attend the welcome party that they prepared for you so casually, it'll not just be bad for you, it'll also embarrass them. Of course, for those who are particularly concerned about self-interest, changing into a respectable and luxurious attire will make them shut up and not affect your mood. I feel that the teachers in school treat me pretty well, they probably won't ridicule me. Li Jingjing bit her lip, and spoke with hesitantly. Jingjing, while driving the car, Yang Chen spoke, you have graduated from university for quite a while now, and ought to face the reality of society. For some matters, even though you don't care, it doesn't mean everybody else won't. Since you entered this society, you can only do your best to adapt. There is nothing to grieve or feel sad about, and nothing you can reject or loathe. I understand. Li Jingjing nodded, Big Brother Yang, thank you. It's not that I don't understand, it's just that I'm still not used to it. I will help you get used to it. Yang Chen gently smiled. In less than half an hour, the car stopped at Zhanghai Mall. In the mall, clothing products from all over the world could be purchased, and would save Yang Chen the effort of going all around the mall to find clothes for Li Jingjing. This was Yang Chen's first time entering a large shopping mall after returning to the country. In the morning, he went to the bank to deposit the extorted check, and after he cashed it and he had a card made. Now that he finally had a little capital in his wallet, he had a little more confidence as he brought Li Jingjing into the elevator to go up. If it was like before and he wanted to buy clothes, he would have to first borrow some money from others. Li Jingjing had never been to a rich and majestic place like this which had perfumes pervading in the air like this to shop. She nervously held onto Yang Chen's arm, with her originally lily-like fresh, pure and beautiful face, combined with her current cute and helpless look, many other customers that walked around couldn't help but steal glances at her. As they walked, they passed by Louis Vuitton, Hermes, Chanel and a few other branded stores. Yang Chen frowned, and bitterly said to Li Jingjing, seems like these shops are more expensive than I expected, how about we take a look at Balenciaga? Although he had some money, it was still not enough to buy those clothes that cost thousands. Li Jingjing simply had no knowledge of the meaning behind these brand names, all she knew was the design of their clothes were extremely beautiful, while some were extremely embarrassing. At this moment she lovably nodded, I'll listen to Big Brother Yang, it's better not to buy something too expensive, I'm afraid I don't have enough money. As she said that, she even rubbed her little satchel. Yang Chen knowingly smiled, and couldn't help pinching the girl's elastic face, I will pay for the clothes today. But. No buts. Yang Chen immediately said, just think of it as something you owe me, and you can return it to me once you earn more money in the future. Li Jingjing could only yield and agree to it. She felt secretly happy in her heart. As Yang Chen expected, the clothes sold by Balenciaga's specialty store was a little cheaper. This was a French brand with decades of experience, they've always been about the clean, simple, refined and pure style. This brand met the requirements to be the outlet to shop for Li Jingjing's clothes. TL. The Rosé Balenciaga is a French brand but I'm pretty sure it's Spanish. Well in Chinese it's called, Bali Shi Jia, which literally means, Paris aristocratic family, kinda funny. When the sales lady saw the two enter, she passionately welcomed them, Mr. and Miss, is there anything particular you want to look at? This season's new designs just arrived yesterday, how about I introduce them to the two of you? Oh, you do not need to go through the trouble, we can choose ourselves. Yang Chen politely refused the sales lady's good intentions, and pulled Li Jingjing's hand as he entered the ladies' department. On one hand he sized up Li Jingjing's build, on the other he personally chose clothes for her. Since it was a work day and also daytime, there weren't many customers in the store. Several of the sales ladies noticed that there was a young man helping his girlfriend choose her clothes, and all looked over in curiosity. Li Jingjing was sized up and down by Yang Chen. While feeling a little weird in her heart, she also felt quite touched. Seeing Yang Chen pick out clothes for her so seriously, all the emotional pain she had vanished into thin air. At this time, as if he suddenly came to a conclusion, Yang Chen nodded, he turned around and said to Li Jingjing, "Jingjing, take off your clothes."